Hi everyone, welcome to World Have Your Say. I'm Lucy Hawkins. In today's programme, a guilty verdict in the trial of the former Liberian President Charles Taylor. Do you think it was fair? If you live in Liberia or in Sierra Leone, you may have a different view on this, so do get in contact with us. Okay, well, let's bring in Yasmin Kadi, who is the lead singer of Kadi and the Tricks. She joins me here in London. Her band writes about the effects of the conflict in Sierra Leone. Thanks for joining us. What was your feeling yesterday when you heard about the guilty verdict for Charles Taylor?
The thing is, the fence I sit on is, it's not as much is he guilty, is he not guilty. My main concern is the effect this war has had on many Sierra Leoneans, including myself. When I was in Sierra Leone, shortly after the war, say at about 2, 3 in the morning, 2 truckload of soldiers broke into our home, smashed the windows and the doors, dragged my dad outside, dragged the whole family outside, you know, beated my dad till his ears were bleeding. It was just absolutely horrendous. And that was very difficult for us. But I know everyone's focusing on the Charles Taylor being convicted now issue, but my issue is the effects the war has had on many people who are still suffering up till today. That's where I sit on the fence. So.
Do you think the verdict, though, helps people move forward, dissipate some of the pain and the anger?
I'm sure it has, but like I say, I don't have any evidence to say he is guilty or not guilty, and I'm sure it takes more than a war go ahead. But I'm sure many people would be happy and have some sort of closure to this. Yeah.
Okay, let's just bring you a comment from Liberia, members of Charles Taylor's family. They were adamant that he was the victim of a political trial.
We will not give up in this fight. We will not give up in this struggle. We are going to stand by Mr. Taylor up till death do us back. We will pursue the legal me. There is room for appeal to be taken. For somebody, all 11 counts. That's what we said. We predicted that there will be a political judgment rendered at the end of the day. And the Americans and British both just prove us right. And so it's a mockery of democracy. It's a mockery of justice. To try Mr. Taylor, you convicted him on the basis of rape. It's unbelievable.
Let's get some reaction from Yasmin Kadi, who is still with us. What do you think when you hear those comments from Charles Taylor's family?
Honestly, I couldn't hear clearly what he was saying, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, fair enough. Tell us more then about your feelings about what's happening in Sierra Leone at the moment, how far the country has managed to progress.
How far has it managed to progress? I went to Sierra Leone in 2007, and from what I remember from when I was there, it hasn't really changed much, to be honest. In actual fact, it's gotten worse. I remember driving along the streets one day and just seeing all around me little children with no arms, no legs, no eyes, older people, the same thing. And there's no sewage system, it's just dire. I remember taking pictures of litter on the street so high, and I got told off by one of the women because she felt really embarrassed. And then I tried to explain to her. I said, look, I'm not a European lady, I'm from here, I'm from Sierra Leone. I want to take these pictures to show back in the UK.
Yes, I have to interrupt you. We'll continue this very shortly. Thanks for being with us on World Have Your Say. We're talking about the guilty verdict for the former Liberian President Charles Taylor, a landmark moment for international justice. Some of you feel, though, he shouldn't have been found guilty for another country's war. Let's continue the conversation. We can talk to Aaron Palmer, who is a lawyer in Washington, D.C., Luis Moreno Ocampo, who is an international prosecutor who joins us from The Hague, and Nadia Maddy, author of the book The Palm Oil Stain, who is here in London, and Yasmin, also a singer, who joins me here in the studio. Aaron, if we can go back to you, do you see this as a triumph for international justice?
I certainly do. I think it's an important step for international criminal trials in the future. It sets valuable precedent. I think it's one part of a much larger process. I think some of the commentary that I've heard has struck me that criminal trials are not the only part of ensuring justice. There needs to be some sort of rehabilitative efforts and action beyond retributive justice and punishment.
Yasmin, you're nodding your head.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. For example, the child soldiers, how are they going to get back into society? how is society going to accept them when a lot of them have killed their mums and dads and friends and family members? I mean, how do we begin that process? So I absolutely agree with her.
Yasmin, how do we begin that process?
It's very difficult because that's even happening in, say, somewhere like Ireland at the moment. It's something that's going to take decades. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. So that's where Kadi and the tricks come into it, because we focus on showing people and telling people about these issues and not just about this one particular man who has been trialed and convicted. It's what do we need to do after now to make Sierra Leone a better place. I personally feel it's, you know, as a Sierra Leonean, it's my responsibility, hence why Kadi and the tricks came about.
Nadia, can we get your feedback on that? Do you think that this verdict is being overplayed in a sense?
Sorry, do I think what, sorry?
The verdict is being overplayed in a sense, too much focus on it.
Well, you know, he's been found guilty. He is a Lone Ranger. There were other people. People have to get on with their lives. In Sierra Leone, we don't have counsellors and things like that. The reality is the people on the ground are trying to feed themselves. So, I mean, there have been charities there doing what they can do. But if there are no jobs for those people who were child soldiers, the government obviously would need to look and address that sort of situation. So you've got child soldiers, ex-child soldiers walking around with no jobs. You've got people who have amputated with no prospects. I think that what the government needs to concentrate on, and not just the Sierra Leonean government, but I mean the whole of West Africa, who this war affected. And let us remember that it didn't just start in the 90s. This has been going on since the 80s. So, I mean, we all need to look at this and learn from it and move forward in the sense of what are we going to do? I know the whole world is suffering from the recession, but what can Sierra Leoneans, Liberians, Nigerians, Ghanaians, etc., what can we do to provide jobs? How do we become self-sufficient and help people to become self-sufficient? That's the major problem.
We're getting comments in from Switzerland, from the United States, from South Korea as well. If I could bring in Luis Moreno Ocampo again, how do you convince people that trials like this are an important part of the healing process?
But this important part, individual responsibility is established, charter irresponsible, then we can go in two different directions. One, in Sierra Leone and Liberia, how to do something else for them, in particular for the child soldiers, how to restore, how to give education to them. But it's not just important for Sierra Leone or Liberia, it's important for the world because we're still fighting to do justice in the world. We are still fighting to stop a genocide in Darfur today. We are still fighting to establish a justice in Libya. So it's an ongoing battle to do justice in the world today. That's why Charles Taylor's decision is important for Liberia, for Sierra Leone, but for the entire world. We have to end impunity for these crimes. That is a condition to improve the life of people.
Let's bring in some of the comments from our Facebook page. Levi in Nairobi in Kenya wrote this to us. The thought that the ICC was set up only for third world countries is as nonsensical as nonsense itself. African leaders should try and behave themselves. Taylor should go and rot in jail, period. Luis Moreno Ocampo, perhaps you could clarify for us what happens now in terms of sentencing.
Probably in May will be a new hearing where the judges will listen to the prosecutor and the defense, and then will decide 10 days later the amount of years Charles Taylor will spend in jail.
We're also getting quite a few comments, people concerned that he is going to be put in jail here in Britain, and people saying the conditions that he'll face in jail here in Britain will be better than what many people have in Sierra Leone.
That's a problem. You know, in Rwanda, they have people volunteering to go to jail in Denmark and Norway because the conditions of life in the jails are much better than in Rwanda itself. So that's a problem showing how unequal is the world. But in any case, we cannot use prison to torture people. It had to be in good conditions.
Yasmin, how do you feel about the fact that he will serve his time here in Britain?
Well, this is exactly what I mean. It's not just about the conviction, because like we all rightly know, conditions here are much better than the conditions in Sierra Leone in the prisons. So again, my issue is moving on from this and helping the people who have actually suffered and are still suffering today. Like Nadia mentioned, I think we here and people all over the world need to do something about this. Get the children educated, help feed them, you know, not just give them handouts, but help make the situation better for Sierra Leoneans in Sierra Leone to be self-sufficient.
Erin?
I think that it's important to remember that Charles Taylor, regardless of where he will be imprisoned, is nonetheless in prison. And I think that that still maintains the deterrent effect of being convicted for the crimes that he was convicted of. It sends a message that if you do these things and commit these crimes or are involved in the commission of these crimes, that you will go to jail.
Nadia, do you think where he serves his prison sentence is relevant?
Well, you know, when you commit a crime like the one that was committed in Liberia and Sierra Leone, what's the worst that can happen?
Okay, Luis Moreno Ocampo, final comment on this issue?
If you're a head of state, lose your liberty is huge. A head of state in jail is a huge change. It's a deterrent.
Yasmin, just to return to you, what work are you doing? I mean, have you returned recently to the country to try and help?
Yes, like I said, I was there in 2007 and saw these things. And then when I came back, I thought, you know what, I need to do something about this. Originally, I was a singer-actress, Western theatre and TV, so I decided to give that up and put together Kadi and the Tricks. Like I said, Kadi and the Tricks, we write and sing about these issues that are happening to make people aware. That's the thing, a lot of people aren't aware. So for instance, today, everyone's so focused on Charles Taylor being convicted, but they don't know so much about what's happened to the people who's suffering and what we need to do to help those people. So that's what we do. And I don't know if it's going to be on the screen. I was told by one of your producers it might be. But if people wanted to get in contact with us to check www.kadiandthetricks.com, and just because we know a lot of people want to talk about this, but they don't know how, they don't have the venues to talk about them and get their voices heard. So
okay, Yasmin, thanks for that.
Here.
Thank you for joining us from The Hague with your thoughts. Yasmin here in London, Laura in Liberia. Thank you all for contacting us. This conversation will continue online. Of course, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/World Have Your Say. I'm Lucy Hawkins. Thanks for being with us today. Hope to see you again soon.
Nasze piecy gry to